The results of this week's elections are still being digested, especially on the national scene, where control of the United States House and Senate still hang in the balance. Locally, there were plenty of surprises up and down the ballot in Minnesota and Wisconsin. And here to help us sort it all out is Cindy Rugeley, Department Head of Political Science at the University of Minnesota-Duluth. And Cindy, thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you.
You've had lots of airtime this week as an analyst, but maybe you could take us back to what stood out to you as you were watching the election returns coming in from this region?
Well, one is that, I think everybody knew that at some point that Northeast Minnesota was going to go Republican. I didn't think it would go as far as it did this particular time, but it did. I thought that Governor Walz won by a bigger margin than I thought he would. I thought the statewide races would be a little bit closer. I mean, not the Attorney General race, it couldn't have been any closer, but I thought those races, and then I was truly surprised that the Democrats pulled a trifecta.
Mm-hmm.
Cindy, you teach college. Are today's young voters perhaps not as party-oriented as their parents and maybe their grandparents were?
I don't think they are. I mean, I've always thought that college students had a strong libertarian streak in them, not like the Libertarian Party now,
right,
but more of a mind-your-own-business type streak in them, and I think that shows up. I mean, I know that, I of course don't interview them, but I know that they told me that a lot of them were voting this election, and I know that we had a good turnout at the campus box, and it was overwhelmingly Democrat, and that probably went a lot into their concerns about social issues and things that affect their immediate future.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the switch over to some Republican positions here in this area. Not too long ago, northern Minnesota, northwest Wisconsin was really reliably blue. Right. What is changing in terms of the messaging that the parties are bringing that's really resonating with people or not resonating up here?
Yeah, it's kind of strange. I mean, when you look at, for instance, CD8, I mean, Walz lost the race there by 10 percentage points, but he won the state by 7 percentage points. Mm-hmm. So it tells you kind of the difference in, these greater Minnesota, these rural areas and these urban areas. And I think, as far as CD8, a lot of it deals with cultural issues and just this feeling that, Democrats aren't like us. Mm-hmm. And so I think it goes into more of that than it does any specific issue.
Mm-hmm.
8th District Congressman Pete Stauber beat Democrat challenger Jen Schultz. Even so, was she a strong opponent to him?
She was a good candidate. I mean, I guess she's as strong as any opponent's going to be in that district. But she was a good candidate. And, she, from somebody who has these grander dreams of campaigns, right, I thought she ran a smart campaign. She talked a lot about issues. She had a lot of, here's how you do things so that we can make a difference. She talked about mining along the lines of, here's how we can work out these problems.
She did a lot of television ads, and so she got her face and her name out there a lot.
Right, but I mean, not much. I mean, she didn't have support she didn't have the money that Representative Stauber had. If you're going to win as a challenger to incumbent, you can't get by having less money. You need to have more money. You have to be able to buy the name, mm-hmm, recognition and reputation that incumbent already has. And she and particularly in a district like that, where you start off at a disadvantage. And so, she did a lot of traveling. It was a strong grassroots campaign. But I mean, without the support of the national party, I think it was an uphill climb for her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Any other real interesting races to you that kind of caught your interest or have a surprising impact?
I thought that, the race to replace Bach was interesting, mm-hmm, and then I wasn't surprised about the race to support Thomasoni. I was surprised that Representative Murphy lost. I was a little bit surprised. Towards the end of the campaign, I thought she might be in trouble. And then I was very surprised that Rob Eklund lost. Mm-hmm. Just because, I mean, they were very influential. I mean, both of them worked strongly across the aisle. I don't think you could call them partisan, so I was a little bit, but on the other hand, I mean, everybody knew it was going to happen sooner or later.
No matter where you live, the cost of living, I'm talking about food, right, housing, heat, going through the roof. Do you think some candidates simply didn't realize that this was a major issue, or did they all realize that but took on different approaches?
Well, I think they all realized it. You know, I mean, when you have people running for state rep that says, I'm going to deal with inflation, well, they're not going to. I mean, and so I think everybody realized it. I thought, honestly, it would be a bigger impact. I think if you just go by, you know, what we call the fundamentals,
right.
You know, the popularity of the president, the economic conditions, it would have been a wipeout. And I mean, I think that's what the mystery of this election, not only in Minnesota, I mean, not nationwide and in Minnesota, really, is that Democrats did as well as they did.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that Democrats did so well at the state level here in Minnesota, how does that play out in terms of clout for this region now that we have a bunch of Republicans representing us?
Well, we've definitely lost some clout in this region. I mean, when you lose people of the prestige of, of Senator Tomassoni, I mean, he was respected by everybody. Senator Bach, and I mean, now you're losing Representative Murphy, Representative Eklund. You know, you do lose clout. And I mean, you would hope that, I mean, that the state, I mean, that Walz would say, yeah, I represent the whole state, and I think he will. I mean, you hope he will, and so you hope that that's not something that brings it into play. Now, nationally, if the Republicans take the House, Representative Emmer is going to have a big role, I think, and I think that Rep. Stauber will also have a subcommittee chairmanship.
A number of people have told me they're glad the election is over simply because of so many negative television ads. Did you find that to be true?
Well, honestly, I don't watch that much television.
Negativity seems to help, does it not?
It does, but you know, it was a weird election in that there was just so much going on. Yeah, I think that negativity, people say it deters voter turnout. I don't think there's much evidence of that. I think people got tired of the chaos of the last few years. You know, first we had the pandemic, and then, you know, I think they got tired of that to an extent. You know, one of the things, you know, Dr. Jensen, I'm not sure he ran a very good campaign. I mean, you know, one of the things saying you're going to have the Secretary of State arrested is probably not a good campaign strategy. And once the abortion decision came down, I think you have to take a position on it.
Right.
And I mean, you can't say one day, this is what I think, and then the next day, well, maybe I think this, you know. And I mean, and he did that on other issues too. I think we need to get rid of the state income tax. Well, maybe we just need to talk about it a while. And so, I mean, it's something I've wondered if these nominating conventions are the best way to go with getting nominees. They tend to maybe nominate people that represent more the fringes of the party, so to speak. And so again, would send Paul Gazelka have been a better candidate, to be honest. And I mean, that's the kind of thing. But anyway, you know, it was an interesting campaign, and you know, I think candidate quality paid into it, and there wasn't as much advertising this time as there were in earlier years. I mean, I think you remember when Rick Nolan was running, and they were spending just literally billions of dollars in this race down here, where everybody was engaged in it.
Mm-hmm. How much did the abortion decision play into this year's election, locally and on a national level?
I think it played in quite a bit, and you know, and honestly, I was a little bit surprised about how much it played in, and I think it did on twofold. One, you know, people kind of looked at it as, you know, taking away a right, which, you know, I guess that, you know, and the inconsistency of positions. When it first happened, I thought, well, we're going to separate the candidates who truly believe that have a firm position on abortion and those who adopted it for political reasons. And I think you saw that. I mean, we went from life begins at conception to sometime after 15 weeks. I mean, that's the way it moved. But I think it just, a lot of people thought, well, this is really extreme and it's really dangerous what we're doing here. I think that was part of it. I think some of it was people had strong opinions on it. I think it mobilized a lot of people. I mean, people who were anti-abortion rights have always been mobilized. But people who are pro-abortion rights have always argued, you know, thought, oh, well, the Supreme Court, we don't have to worry about this. And I think that decision changed that, and it mobilized people, and it might be one of those issues that played into younger voters.
Well, Cindy, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. I always enjoy it.
Now get some rest.
I'm going
You've got 2 years until the presidential race.
Thank you so very much.
It's great to see you guys again. It's been a while.
Good to see you.
Thank you.